So do you need to train insane to maximize your gains? Well, yesterday I posted about the intensity to recovery ratio and why maximizing that is really going to help you recover from your bouts of exercise. But today let's talk about the intensity side of things. So I'm talking about training insane. Dorian Yates has blood and guts videos where he shows you his training program when he was Mr. Olympia. And that name, blood and guts, I mean, it's death and destruction. And you want to try to basically kill yourself in the gym if you want to maximize gains. So physiologically though, why is this so important that you should drive intensity? Another thing that I ask people is look at all the different influencers, look at all the different people that have all of these fitness programs. They're all different programs. Why do they all have success stories? Because the people that succeeded were the ones that worked hard and they got their recovery in. Okay, that's another aspect of things. If you're not recovering, you're just breaking down. So they responded to the exercise, they did the program, they worked out intensely enough to then get the stimulation at a high enough level to get them results. So what's the underlying factor between all of those programs? It's the level of intensity that you train at. Now, of course, you can overdo it. And we've talked about stress and everyday life and how that affects and all that kind of stuff. But today we're going to talk about the intensity and why it's so important. Physiologically, why is it important? Well, there are certain things called satellite cells that will help repair muscle when it goes under trauma. Well, there's the direct stimulation with the muscle. If I just lift the weight, it's going to go in and stimulate those muscle cells. But the overall stimulation of a traumatic, again, fight or flight survival mode level of exercise, blood and guts level of exercise, will maximize that level of satellite cells so that you can repair that damage and grow. So if you want to maximize your muscle growth, you're not just going to want to stimulate that muscle to fatigue, maybe even past fatigue, like we've talked about with drop sets or using a spotter. You're going to want to make that bout of exercise super intense. Another video that's very popular of mine is the testosterone and leg training video, where I talk about how legs are one of those things that will help stimulate a lot of other things. Why? Why would they do that? Is because it's such a taxing thing on your body to use these big muscles in your legs. And usually you're using something like your back to hold on to the bar on your back or hold on to the bar with the deadlift. So you're using your traps, you're using your arms, you're actually using your whole body when you do your leg movements. That systemic, the entire intensity of the activity or the workout itself is stimulating this response in your body to grow, to proliferate those satellite cells to help clean up and build that muscle tissue that was broken down during exercise. So physiologically, it's at your advantage to train the intensity. Now, we talked about intensity. Intensity does not mean speed. Intensity should be perceived exertion. How hard are you working? You want to make sure you're breathing through all this. So if you're doing all this, that's not good either. You want to make sure you're breathing. You want to make sure you're really targeting those muscles, but you should feel like blood and guts. You should feel like you are in a fight to the death with the weights. That's what I try to recreate every single time. That's why I love my style of working out. I do 2 workouts twice a week. That's it. 30 minutes, an hour total of exercise in the week, 30-minute exercise. But I know I start that clock, click, and I go after it like I'm in a fight to the death. And by the end of that workout, I'm exhausted. And I get this maximum response from, again, when I fatigue those muscles, and I get the maximum response from the overall systemic fatigue of that bout of exercise. Now, we can do this in different ways by increasing the volume of things, right? I can just add more sets to increase that intensity overall, because that will add to the overall stress on the system. But again, for me, I look at that as a way of being not as efficient as going after some of the more direct ways that you can do that in one set, whether that's adding repetitions, adding weight, 5, 10, 15 pounds, whatever it is, depending on the movement, adding time under tension. Okay, I can play around with the protocols of how slowly I'm doing the repetitions. Again, we want to try to keep everything very slow so that we minimize peak forces. But if I'm not improving, if I'm not overloading, if I get used to the stimulus, the intensity level of something, and I say I can do 10 repetitions at 100 pounds, and I do that for 10 weeks. Well, if my strength has gone up and I'm not challenging, if it's not, again, a fight to the death because it's something that I'm holding back on, I need to start improving. I need to have that progressive overload principle where I need to overload the muscle so that it gets challenged. Now, if you're at a level where you're good, right? You're like, hey, I don't need to grow. Well, then this isn't, we're not talking about that with you. You might want to stay at the same weight that you're pushing. You might want to stay with your same routine because you're happy with your physique, you're happy with your results. But if you want to gain, if you're like where I'm at right now, where I'm trying to gain just a little bit more muscle in certain areas of my body, okay, well, I have to overload. I have to challenge myself every week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I have to try to increase the weight or increase the time under tension or increase the repetitions or whatever metric that I'm following. I follow all of those things. But what I want to do is I want to overload so that I can get that response to that, again, helps my body grow. But if I'm not training like a maniac, if I don't go into the gym and really just absolutely go all out, I'm not going to maximize not only the muscle recovery, I'm not going to maximize all of the other things, the hormones, the flood of inflammation that the muscle goes through to then get the maximum recovery. Now, again, I have to take that recovery time if I'm doing that high bout. Watch the video that I posted yesterday about that ratio. The more intense you go, the more recovery you need. I just took a day off because I've had other stressors in my life. I haven't been sleeping as much. I've been doing a lot more, working a little bit more. Okay, so those things come in, right? I had a late night out. It's like, okay, I have a late night out. I woke up early that next day. I had some other, relational stuff going on where it's stressful. So I didn't feel like I was going to be able to push that intensity on these exercises. So what I do instead, I took a nap and I went to bed early. Today I woke up feeling great, okay? I know that I'm going to be ready for my workout in the middle of the week, so I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to try to get another workout in between then. No, I'm going to let myself rest, recuperate, because sometimes you don't even necessarily feel the wear and tear that's been happening. But the intensity side of things, I'm going to see if I can link to a video with Dorian Yates so you can see the level of intensity that someone like a world champion, the Mr. Olympia, Dorian Yates, was able to exercise at. Another one that's really good to watch if you want to see someone training insane is Tom Platz, all right, famous for his quads. That guy, but he worked out his whole body like that. He has some hilarious episodes, some things about when he was training. It just looks hilarious, but he wanted to get nuts, okay? One of the things he was like, kill me! He's doing the quad leg extensions, kill me! It's funny when you think about it, but that's, if you want to maximize, this guy was up there on the stage of Mr. Olympia. He was one of the best in the world because he got nuts. You gotta get in here. We talked about mindset before as well. That's another video. Your mindset you have to get nuts. And if you think like it's a fight to the death, you will perform better. Hey, there's a gun to not your head. There's a gun to your most prized loved one's head. And if you don't do one more repetition, all right, that gun's going off. You're going to find that extra rep. It's hard for us to get to that level of intensity because we're at the gym, there's pretty girls, there's buddies, hey, what's up, bro? You're having fun. You're enjoying it. I say don't have fun. If you're having fun, you're not doing it right. It should be terrifying. It should be horrible. And again, you got to get yourself amped up into that state of mind. You got to get ready for it. And if you don't feel like you're able to get there, if you're like flat then stay home. Again, you might be overtraining, but you should bust your ass in the gym so that you can maximize not only that muscle breakdown in that specific muscle group or that exercise that you're working on, you should also get that systemic fatigue. That's why I don't rest in between my exercise. I'm lifting heavy weight and I'm going from chest to back to shoulders to legs to, I go one to the next, to the next, to the next. I do not rest. And that stresses my whole system. And I've found I've gotten the most results out of that also coupled with the fact that I'm recovering for the first time in between my bouts of exercise. So watch my video yesterday, watch some Dorian Yates, watch some Tom Platz, get nuts, train insane, and let's see those gains.